Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Voice of Healthcare Presents Futuristic Friday. I am Katyayni, your host for the day. Futuristic Friday is Voice of Healthcare's virtual interview series where we invite leaders and visionaries from the different walks of healthcare who are bringing about disruptions and transformations in the space of healthcare technology. This series is for everyone who wants to stay updated about what's buzzing in the world of healthcare technology and what the future looks like. Our guest for today is Mr. Kalyan Sivasailam, the co-founder and CEO of 5C Network Private Limited. 5C Network is India's leading healthcare delivery network, which offers a bouquet of connected digital diagnostic services and solutions. Mr. Kalyan has been recognized for his work through various accolades, one of which is being listed in the prestigious Forbes 30 Under 30 for India and Asia. Welcome, Mr. Kalyan. It is our pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks, Kathleen. Delighted to be on the show with you on Futuristic Friday.
Right. It is a pleasure to have you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us your story of how did you venture into healthcare entrepreneurship? How did you get into this? How has the journey been so far? And have there been any pitfalls, ups and downs? We want to know all about it.
Sure. I think I have to start by saying that ups and downs are, now I can say that ups and downs are absolutely a part of startup life. And it's more about navigating how to enjoy both the ups and the downs and figure out how you can keep doing better. But let me start with a very brief introduction about myself. Bangalore boy, kind of raised here, studied in a wonderful place called Suratkal that I still consider home, and then came back to Bangalore to continue my studies and then, of course, startup. I have a background in both computer engineering and, incidentally, in law. I finished my post graduation in law from the National Law School, Bangalore, and I would say very serendipitously ended up in healthcare. Uh, the story and how of Syed, my co-founder, and I got into healthcare was basically that toward the end of 2016, Syed and I actually had an idea to start a completely different venture, very focused on the telecom space. Right, and we had a bunch of interesting ideas. Syed and I had known each other for by then at that point in time 4 5 years, and I'd actually interned under him during my time in Surat. And we had some very specific ideas on MPLS, over 3G, and a bunch of other stuff. But incidentally and unfortunately, Syed at that time was admitted into a very well-known hospital in Bangalore. He got an MRI of his brain and spine, and the report took over 2 days to get delivered. And Syed, with a young family of two daughters and wife, are obviously quite, as you can imagine, quite scared about what's going on. And I was Syed's man on the scene, and I could be quite, I can still be quite belligerent, when I feel I need to. And I went to the radiology department at this place, and I kind of pushed them to understand why I can't get this report faster so that Syed's treatment can carry on. And that's the first time I was actually exposed to the world of diagnostic, healthcare, technology in healthcare and diagnostics. And I think what is interesting is that from that point in time, while we are in the healthcare space, Syed and I looked at our company as a technology company working very intimately in the healthcare domain. And that allowed us as complete outsiders to healthcare. Neither Syed is a doctor, nor am I a doctor. And so that allowed us as outsiders to the space, so to speak, to actually come in and have the opportunity to build something, because we did see ourselves as technology players playing very intimately in the space of healthcare. And it made sense because healthcare is getting digitized, which allows digital entrepreneurs like myself and Syed to make an impact. Healthcare is a large market, and you need a large market to build a large business. And multiple macro indicators do say that this is a great time to start building in healthcare. So we kind of saw that this was an inflection point on multiple fronts, and we decided to to take a plunge. Honestly, we never knew. Today, startups will talk about addressable market, etc. Right? They use these terms, STAM, SAM, SOM. We didn't really have an understanding of those terms at that time, but we just knew that, hey, if we solve this basic issue, we could get a few customers and we'd be able to work together and build something cool. And that's how it really started.
That is quite a moving story. I mean, I think you work best when, you have a personal motivation or a story that gets you going. I think that is that, and it's really inspiring. So I'm sure our audience will also, you know, get inspired.
I mean, the why I think, especially in a field which you don't know about, for example, I mean,
Yes.
everybody knows e-commerce because you're a user
Right.
of e-commerce. But in
Correct.
healthcare, you're not really, you're a patient, which is not really a user of healthcare. And so
Right.
there are a lot of times in the startup journey when you have to go back to why. And entrepreneurs on this call or somebody who will hear this recording later will really understand what I mean. That there are many points in your journey when you will just stop and think why. And if
My
that why
way.
question can be answered at 3 a.m. in the morning, your propensity and your ability to go to work the next day is just a lot higher. So that's why it's so important.
I agree completely. So, if you could tell us about what exactly is 5C doing, what have you been up to? What exactly do you do, and how does your journey look like? What does your day look like? And if you could
I'll,
tell us something about that.
I'll start with what 5C does. So 5C
Yes.
Network today is we are an AI powered diagnostic platform for diagnostics, but specifically at the moment having a deep focus on radiology. So what we do is we work with hospitals and diagnostic centers that have, let's say, an X-ray, CT, and MRI machine, and we provide them essentially a full stack service. So what we do is
Okay.
we tell them that we will bring you patients to your center so that your machine utilization improves, your return on investment on the capital that you put in on that machine improves. And we tell them that, hey, we will not only bring the patient to you, but we will also process that patient, that scan of the patient, using literally best in class clinical excellence tools that we have built. So if I had to draw a simple parallel to what you could correlate 5C to be, think of us like maybe a Tribo hotels, except that
Okay.
we don't just manage patients walking into the hotel. We actually
Mhm.
manage the complete delivery ecosystem as well. So imagine if Tribo was actually the Oberoi and your experience was that good and at that level, because there's
Right.
completely digital service
Right.
as opposed to, let's say, a hotel chain having to actually have clean linen, clean beds, etc. Because they're completely
Hmm.
digital. We bring in patients to our network of hospitals and diagnostic centers. We get the scan done using the machines. We pay them for that, and we
Okay.
also get the report done through our platform. Now
Okay.
you like what's the AI do? You use this buzzword in the beginning. We haven't spoken
Correct.
about it. There's a probably one of the most fundamental parts of 5C, which is that we believe that we are already the gold standard in clinical excellence in radiology, and we are getting better.
Okay.
Today, over the last 5 years, 5C has reported for over 5 million patients in India, right? And we have actually been able to use this data to get significantly better. So our accuracy rates, our turnaround times, our ability to identify diseases, because of the data that we have and the insights and the AI that we've been able to build, are significantly stronger than any other player. So let's say you go to a diagnostic center.
Right.
Uh, Even if a diagnostic center has then, let's say, 10 lakh cases before the time you walk in, the chance of them making an error or not giving you the most optimal output is the same as the first scan. But because we have data and we're a technology company, we're able to understand. So we understand disease burdens. We understand, for example, if a center has, let's say, if you're taking an abdomen scan, there's a 20% chance that this abdomen scan from this center for this given history has a kidney stone. And so we can already bias our algorithms and our radiologists towards making better diagnosis. On top of
Okay.
that, there's a lot of work that we've done in the deep learning, image recognition, and image analysis space. So we're able to automatically identify potential findings and flag them to a radiologist. Right. So the clinical delivery is something we take very seriously, and we are actually we that's what we hang our hat on. Right. we're building a very large network of diagnostic centers, and we believe that what our calling card is the clinical excellence that we bring to them. So that's about 5C, and I think you'd asked me about what my day really looks like, kind of running this business, right? It's an interesting question because there's honestly no fixed answer. I so we as I explained to you earlier, we essentially run. It's almost like two businesses which are deeply synergetic. We bring in patients to our partners and we report for them, right? And so these are actually,
Okay.
because even though the partner is the same in the middle, there are, the way we think about those two businesses is obviously very different. So a lot of my time goes into one, understanding synergies. Two, I'm honestly blessed to have a phenomenal team, top to bottom. And so a lot of my time actually goes into seeing how I can be a multiplier, rather than an impediment to progress. Because every day we try to build this culture in 5C of moving forward. And if vision is not steady, if vision is not constant, energy
Yes.
can be dissipated very easily. So I spend a lot of time just with my team trying to figure out whether we're doing the right things together and how I can be a multiplier for them.
Right, right. I think that's very important. I mean, and what you have been doing, there's one question that I'd like to ask you. So, because you are bringing in something new, it's a new technology. So, have you faced any problems with the acceptability of this technology that you're bringing in? Because normally healthcare is a very, traditional market, if I could say that, especially these diagnostics labs and such. So have you faced any such problem with acceptability?
So that's a very interesting question, and I'll actually try to take a different cut at answering it. When
Hmm.
you look at the process of diagnostics, there are two things that matter when you want to change the game, right? You need to work either on the quality of the report itself, the depth of insight, the level of accuracy that you're bringing in through diagnostics, and you need to work on the timeliness. So you need to be able to give that report when that report needs to be done. For example, if you have a, an acute bleed and you're getting an MRI done, you want that report in less than 10 minutes because that patient is going to be wheeled straight into the OT, right? And so timeliness and quality are two fundamental important things that you need to work on. And one of the things that we realize is that we build a lot of features and like you said, we're using very new technologies that people could have honest doubts over. But I think that what we have done reasonably well is to talk about how we are first impacting quality and timeliness, and then going down to the fact that we're using this technology. And I think by showing customers, by showing patients, by showing doctors the real value that they're after, which is better quality and more timeliness, we are able to reduce their, I would say, the negative connotation potentially associated with bringing in new technologies. And then, of course, many people have questions about, okay, you say you do all this phenomenal stuff, but how do you do it? What's this magic about? And at that point in time, it's only fair that we honestly tell them the kind of tech that we're using and how we're doing it. But as long as you keep that goal constant, saying, hey man, I am trying to help you with these two fundamental things that you want, and this is the technology I'm using, and I'm happy to validate this with you. Uh, we find that most people are happy to have that conversation, as opposed to going to a customer and saying, hey, by the way, we use AI. Do you want to use AI? Our AI is the best. And customers are just at that point in time, customers are on the defensive. So the first thing they're going to ask is, oh my God, who's validated it? Show me all your research papers. Are you FDA approved? But we go in with, hey, my job is to improve quality and improve timeliness. And then you draw them in and then you give them um, technology, right? And then I think that just sells a lot.
Absolutely. So you talked about AI. So artificial intelligence is the next big thing, if you could say that. It has been doing the rounds recently, and there is a lot of talk around going on. Controversial talks, whether it is a bane, it is a boon. So, what are your views? How would you say, uh, what are the benefits or what are the advantages, and what do you think are, the negative aspects of AI that we need to watch out for?
I would first start by saying that currently I believe that AI will evolve as a utility, and a tool to get stuff done rather than being a means to an end, right? So the ability to use artificial intelligence in any form, be it deep learning or medical images, be it LLMs that have become so popular, will be like using electricity, right? So today, I think it would be safe to say that a company that uses electricity is better than a company that doesn't use electricity, because you can work at night and you can use all these engines and lights and laptops and stuff, right? So I would say that AI will become a utility, and it's obviously fundamental to understand how to use that utility and to have solid use cases.
Right.
Um, in the healthcare space more specifically, I think that um, a little more, I would say, a little more care has to be put in to make sure that you're really delivering value, because it's easy to get hype, right? So the same algorithm that can detect cats should not be used to detect brain bleeds, right? Because one is a
Right.
trivial use case and the other is as non-trivial and as serious as it gets, while the technology is reasonably the same. And so I think that the standard that you set yourself to has to be much higher. And
Right.
I would say that the industry also understands that. I mean, for example, you asked in your previous question, how do people think about this, right? And I've had the pleasure of having deep, intense discussions with hospital owners, diagnostic center owners, other health techs, where they ask me, "Hey, man, there is a big difference between understanding facial recognition and recognizing appendicitis in an abdominal CT. They're completely.
Right.
I mean, broad technology is the same, but the use cases are so different. And the nuance of that conversation is obviously the layers and the checks and the balances that you put in order to make sure that your accuracy is improved. I do believe. I don't think it's the next big thing. I mean, in 5C, it's very much the current thing. So, like,
Yes.
I find it amazing. Like when I talk to, I think we're blessed to have 130 incredible people working at 5C. And one of the things that I see at 5C is that, for example, a chest X-ray is almost completely pre-reported, or a knee X-ray is completely pre-reported, and radiologists are getting
Right.
complete written reports that they just have to approve. And maybe a year and a half back, it was, wow. I mean, look at this thing. And today, it's something that's very, very quotidian, very normal in 5C, right? Like, people will be having a casual conversation saying, hey, AI did that, and we had to make this correction, or oh, AI caught that and it was done. And the conversation has been so normalized, and that made me believe that one of the things that 5C has an opportunity to do is to make the incredible very normal and very accessible to millions and millions of
Absolutely agreed.
people.
So you've mentioned so many benefits of technology and how you have been using it. So this should be a tough question for you. Do you think there are any cons of using technology in, let's say, specifically to radiology or diagnostics?
Oh yeah, I think there are multiple,
Okay.
and my thought process has been shaped obviously by a lot of people. For example, my board who works with me very closely, um, and I've also come to realize that a good heuristic to understand how to build anything would be to think through PPT, right? So people process technology, and the technology is obviously important, and it's necessary but not sufficient. And so if you just have technology in a process that is not designed well, is not foolproof and fail safe, and you don't have people who are well trained, motivated, capable, and of course, who understand the value of that technology, the technology is useless. And I think a great example is, so, can you show me a doctor that loves their EMR, right? They all detest it with a deep passion, right? And And what they will tell you is that it takes away time from my patients, right? But I think what they're actually saying is, man, this just doesn't make any sense. What am I storing this data for? It hardly gives me any insights. It's for your documentation, it's for your insurance claims. And you honestly, let's look at what it's doing, right? You're having unhappy doctors, you're hiring more people because doctors don't fill in the EMR properly. Who's paying for all these who's paying for all these people? Patients are paying because hospitals need to make a
Yes.
profit. And so you have this bloat in healthcare of completely non-value adding services. And I think it's fair to say that the technology is partially to blame, right? So the T
Yeah.
of PPT has to be well aligned with the first two P's for it to actually be useful, right? And if that's not done, and that applies to everything. I'm giving you an example of an EMR.
Right.
But I mean, if you apply the same thing to an implementation of AI, where your people and your processes are not aligned towards it. For example, AI can spit out false positives, can spit out false negatives as well. And at that point in time, do you have the people and the processes to be able to flag that and reduce that to the minimal? Because if you're spitting out a high range of false positives and a high range of false negatives, you're actually increasing spend. And AI is not going to reduce costs; it's going to increase costs because you have so many people in the middle, just doing stuff that is not value accretive. That's actually value diminishing. And so, from that perspective, yeah, technology can have lots of problems. It's all about the first two. There's a reason it's PPT, right? It's not TPP. And so the people and the processes have to be aligned for the technology to make sense. And if people are just thinking, you know what, I'm going to implement tech, they don't think about P and P, you're going to have a hard time, and technology will definitely be a pain. And
Completely agreed. You can never, replace human touch, human
that's right.
intervention. You cannot replace that with anything.
You need to
So,
augment it. We are intelligent beings. You need to augment it using technology. But yeah,
absolutely, yes. So, the diagnostics industry has been your area of expertise. So, what do you think are the gaps that are still there in spite of all the technology that has come into place? And how do you think can those gaps be filled?
there are multiple gaps in the starting from the healthcare industry and very much in the diagnostics industry as well. One, just to give you one example, right? Radiology has been a science, or existing since 1895, right, when Wilhelm
Right.
Röntgen went and took that first x-ray of his wife's hand. By 1901, I think, and Röntgen was the first winner of the first Nobel Prize of Physics. So radiology is not like some absolutely modern day technology. It's been there since like very early, very very early 1900s, right? But for a long time, I think there's been this absolute plateau in terms of quality and timeliness. And that's one, for example, that's one gap that we identified, that we said, hey, there are so many radiology reports that are being generated. And just like Google search has gotten so much better because so many people are searching, why has radiology reporting not gotten more intelligent? Because so many people have been reporting. You have so many lines of data, right? You have, for example, disease burden locally. You have, within a particular area, what kind of diseases are coming, what kind of people are getting that disease. You can cut by age, you can cut by sex, and you can really try to figure out patterns that help diagnosticians be faster, more accurate, and more consistent. And it was just zero. The largest diagnostic centers in India today are just input and output, right? Where is the intelligence and where is the process? And so I think that exists in multiple parts of the healthcare ecosystem. Diagnostics, I feel it's more prominent, primarily because diagnostics is, for a large part, digital and documented. For example, surgeries is a much more difficult thing to understand whether surgeries have gotten better or worse. You have to look at patient outcomes over a very long time. Diagnostics, every diagnostic report is documented in some way. Why can't we use this data to get better? And I think that was the fundamental premise of 5C. A report that we give 10 minutes from now is better than a report that we gave 10 minutes before, right? And I
Right.
think simply because we're able to learn, understand, and give context. So that's, I would say, one very big gap in the diagnostic space. And there are many. I think that there's an opportunity to bring more people and give more people access to high quality diagnostics, be it pathology, radiology, etc. There are tons of gaps and tons of opportunity for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial companies to make a large impact.
Right. Thank you so much for that response. And I think, you are doing a wonderful job, and I think the industry is going to grow leaps and bounds if, there are more people like you and more companies like you that come forward and, genuinely work towards improving the overall healthcare space.
Yep.
So, yeah, my next question to you is that, what is that one piece of advice that you would like to give all the budding entrepreneurs, not just in healthcare, but in general? What is that one piece of
Oh,
advice that you would like to give?
Gyan to entrepreneur is the toughest question you've shot me all day. Um, what would I tell an upcoming entrepreneur? I would say that this is something that I also try to practice a lot. That if you want to get into the healthcare space and you're not a doctor, uh, you must have the ability to spend time on the ground wherever that is. So if you are looking into diagnostic tech, you have to have the grit and the determination to be able to spend a lot of time in diagnostic centers, in hospitals, in diagnostic labs, understanding the structure, because
Right.
you have very very little context, and the medical space works in a very different way, and that context can change the product roadmap completely, right? And I think that's really important to understand that context. And at the same time, I would also say that if you're not a doctor and you're still looking to get into healthcare, you should absolutely do it, because being a generalist and being a first principles thinker in healthcare, I think, is invaluable, because the industry is so grounded in older practices that may not even make sense. And if you're a complete outsider to the space, you have the ability and you don't have the shame to basically ask why. And I think that's a power at the very early stage that is incredibly powerful. So if you have never been exposed to healthcare, but you see an opportunity, uh, have the guts to dig down and ask shamelessly, because that context is important. But once you get a hang of it, I think there's a big opportunity in a very large market, and so I would always say go for it.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, that was a great answer, and I think I have been inspired, and I'm sure all the people who are watching us right now are inspired too. And this has been a great, engaging, and interesting conversation, Kalyan. And we could go on and on, but
Yep.
uh, we are running out of time. So thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you all the very best for everything that you're doing. And I'm sure we'll see bigger things coming from you. And
Sure.
thank you once again for joining us. It has been a great pleasure interacting with you.
Most welcome, and best of luck to the VOH team to keep
Thank you so
scaling
much.
all the good work that you guys
Thank you so much. And
do.
thank you
Cheers,
for
everyone.
joining us.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.